NFL podcast. Read smart people books.
From the Chris Wessling podcast studio. That's a man who read a lot of smart books. It's the Around the NFL podcast. Dan Hanses here. Got some heroes. Greg Rosenthal, Mark Sessler, and sitting to my right, oh, it's been too long, and it's always a blessing for the show. Connie Fox, the tiny box, is in the house.
I'm back. Hello. It's great to see you guys.
Great to see you. Somebody tweeted at me. You were TNF last week. Where were you? You were
Arizona.
Someone shouted out while you were doing a live hit, hey, tiny box.
It happens all the time, and I love it. So keep doing it, guys. It's great. And someone was like, "Say hey to Dan."
But what does Steve Smith think about that being shouted at you? Does he understand the lineage of that nickname?
Nobody knows.
Right.
But
At
there's
this
a lot of
point,
things being shouted.
Right. How many people? It feels like a nickname that needs context, but we never give it the context.
I think it needs lots of context.
Right.
Tiny box
And
representing.
We're just happy the large box is not what took hold in the imagination.
Absolutely not. We're not going to do huge box. Do anything like that.
Colleen's here. It's awesome. We are at the trade deadline. In fact, look at this. Play along, because I know the trade deadline actually passed 22 minutes ago. But we're going to act like it's about to pass now. All right, here we are, 12:59 on the West Coast. Ricky, count us down like Dick Clark in the biggest of all spots. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, my God.
We did it. Oh, my God.
Best day of the year.
Why is Mark
Hands
trying
down.
to kiss
Wow.
me?
Get your hands off him, Sessler.
Apologies, Greg.
He's a colleague.
That's
The
Howard.
trade deadline has passed, and a little bit of a dud. Not a lot of drama, but there was one huge name moved, and we're going to get through the big names connected to the trade deadline, whether they were moved or not. And you got to start, of course, with Von Miller. And, Connie, this is a big one. The Denver Broncos agreed to trade the 8-time Pro Bowl linebacker to who else? The Los Angeles Rams for a second and third round pick in the upcoming NFL draft. The Broncos will also pay, and this is interesting. There's a little Brock Osweiler vibe here. The Broncos will also pay $9 million of Miller's remaining $9.7 million base salary for the 9 games left in the season. So they said, we'll take the money. Give us the picks. Connie, what do you think? A lot of excitement, obviously. Von Miller joins a front seven in L.A. that has Aaron Donald. Is this going to be as big a deal as it seems on paper, or should there be some trepidation about what kind of impact he can make?
No, I want it to be. I'm selling this. I'm all in on it. I didn't expect this one to happen at all either. I feel like it popped out of nowhere. The Rams right now, they lead the league in sacks, and now they won't have to blitz as much in theory. I feel like Raheem Morris, he must be on cloud 9, their defensive coordinator, just because you have Aaron Donald, who's so disruptive, and Leonard Floyd, he's been having such a good season on the other side. Then you add in Von Miller. This team has been performing so well, and the defense now just has so much more juice with Jalen Ramsey on the back end, and when you have the Titans coming in for Sunday Night Football without Derrick Henry, they're going to have to throw the ball, and you add Von Miller, who they're expected to play this week. I love it. I think it sets up really well for them. Plus, when you think about it and you look at their schedule.
County on fire, and I like it.
I'm out. This is it, though. I mean, I have nothing else the rest of the show. When you look at their schedule, the Rams play Week 17 in L.A. They could have home field at that point if everything goes their way and maybe never leave again the rest of the season.
Oh. You went with the whole, staying home for 6 straight weeks.
Staying home narrative in play.
I mean,
Sessler, you like that, right? Staying home? I like to stay home.
I do. It appeals to me.
I'm looking forward to an LA Super Bowl. I don't think it would be a good one to come in for, but I'm glad to have one here. And the Rams could be in it. This is why you make that move. But that's such a high bar. And, how much does Von Miller alone change the calculus? You love it as a Rams fan that they're absolutely going for it. It's a big price. I mean, a second and a third round pick. When I saw that it was 2 second-day picks, my mind was still in, 2008 when they only had 2 days of the draft. And I was like, oh, 4th or 5th round picks. That sounds like a good deal, win-win. like this is definitely a win for Denver. You know what are they doing right now?
it
You
though?
might as well get those picks. Yes,
Is it a win?
Yes.
It might. You
to
can
get
make a, you
to
can make
get
a
8
smart
years of
move.
contracts for 2 rookies. Von Miller's not going to be on that team next year. Instead of having 9 games of a guy when you absolutely know you're going to have a different coaching staff. Like this is a move that I'm sure Vic Fangio didn't love, but that it shows to me that like Vic Fangio and the GM are not necessarily.
I
on
mean,
the
I
same
think it's
page.
a smart move. I think it's kind of sad whenever a player of his importance to that organization.
That's
and
fair.
We were there in Santa Clara when he took over that game and took Cam Newton's soul and won Super Bowl MVP. So it ends this way, and it ends, Mark, at a time, and lest we forget that this is the team of THAL, and we'll get back to the Rams in a second.
Anymore. That's
Broncos,
why you got to wait till the season starts. Wes was always big on that.
Yeah.
Like, let's watch 3 games.
a Broncos team that entered the season thinking they could really contend in the AFC are trading Von Miller 2 days after Halloween, and that's rough for the Broncos and their fans. They still have so much work to do to get back to where they want to be.
Yeah, it leaves me with lots of questions. I mean, Greg, if you after 3 games the Broncos would have been 3-0, I think
That's
there
a
was
fair
actually
point.
a little bit
I
more
guess I
hype
needed
going
like
on, but
6 games.
6 games would have helped, but the future of Vic Fangio,
I
the
just needed
future,
16 games.
right? The future. I mean, it's when you're selling Von Miller, you're basically saying this season is a wash, and at this point, I think Vic Fangio's job is in hot butt territory if it was already there.
We're gonna have to check. We're gonna check in on that next week, by the way, at the season's midpoint, where the hot butts are at.
Sizzle Fangio.
Weird.
It's just not fair to human beings to have to be categorized that way if you're Vic Fangio. But I love this for Les Snead to me because it started with the Stafford thing. And like in another universe, the Stafford thing could be going very poorly right now. And it's like you guys blew up, roster A to go get this, and you've given up a lot. Instead, it's going about as perfectly as you could have ever imagined. And I kind of just trust the Rams to make this work with Leonard Floyd, Aaron Donald, and Von Miller. And it's like a one-season thing because they're ultra going for it. And if you're Les Snead, after what happened with Gurley and with Goff, where you had to answer so many questions about these players that you drafted and developed and then overpaid, it went totally south. They're all about known quantity. And other teams will simply copy what they do at this point because it's like, we don't care about draft picks. I'm not going to have to stand up on a podium.
Well, we got to see it
They've
work.
been doing
though, right?
Well, it's worked.
But
They've
it
been
is
doing it
working
for-
right now with Stafford.
They've been doing it for 4 or 5 years, though. I mean,
Jalen Ramsey
Brandon
has
Cooks
worked.
trade,
5
that-
straight drafts they
Right,
haven't picked
right,
in the first
Right, Brandon
round.
Cooks,
Right.
Jalen Ramsey. Like, it's working, and that's where I push back on people being like, of course they all are all in for this year. They even sent the little Rounders tweet out about it.
Malkovich
Yeah.
lost that
But
hand.
they're not. It's not like they're out for next year. Right. It was a great point. Not understanding the movie. It's not like they're out for next year or the year after. This is what everyone said in 2019 too. Oh, they're loading up for one more run. They said it going into last year. They're loading up, trading these picks for one more run. It's like, no, Stafford's going to be here. Cook's going to be here. Donald's going to be here. Woods will probably be here. Von Miller might be here because you might want to kind of amortize this deal and make it get a little better value and sign him to a reasonable contract before the end of the season just so you can keep him. I think it's said that they didn't think their defense had enough juice, to your point, Colleen. Like, yeah, they've played well, but you look at the teams they've played, and for the most part, the offenses have stunk. The 2 decent offenses they played, the Bucs and Cardinals, did whatever they wanted against them, and I think they felt like they needed more juice. So it told me, I think, what they saw in their defense, and that makes sense. They're going for it.
They've had a pretty soft schedule. So
Right.
what do you guys think
Especially
about
And they've also
Dropping-
rolled everyone. So it's like,
Right.
I mean, you can't you're doing what you're doing, and like they look
No,
to me
but especially
like a superpower.
defensively, they've had a soft schedule, especially against the quarterbacks they played. So when they struggled that much against the Bucs and the Cardinals, and Von Miller has played well this year. He is an above average, good NFL starter who you would think is gonna get some extra juice here.
My question, Connie, is: does Von Miller get the Matt Stafford and Sean McVay offense pop by playing it with Aaron Donald and being able to kind of not be the focus of the defense? That's, I think, another reason why they made this trade. They thought Von Miller could be better than he has been in Denver the last couple of years.
And we've seen that happen in multiple places. We've seen it happen with the Steelers. We've seen it with a ton of teams, even the Browns when they bring in Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett, just guys having an extra body there and then them being able to benefit off of that. But did you see the rumors that the Broncos traded Von Miller because his teammates in Denver wouldn't help pay for the Halloween party that he throws every year?
Oh, I hope.
I'm just
I don't.
no.
Noah Fant talked on
Seth
it today.
Wickersham, do you hear that? Get to work.
What is it? There's always some drama about the Halloween party. Wasn't their former,
Quavo was there this year.
their former quarterback was
Yes.
involved?
Oh, you're
in
right.
Some drama there.
Did he wind up in someone's house?
He was in someone's house.
I
That-
forgot about that.
Noah Fant tried to shut down this Halloween party stuff, saying it was all cool with Von. Everyone loves Von. I really love like Von Miller. When I listened to him speak, he gave this long YouTube thanking everyone in the Denver organization. He seems like a guy who's like, I don't know, like aware of how lucky he is, and he wanted everyone to know, and seems very beloved there. So you're right, Dan. You do lose something. You're trading a guy like that.
You do, and it's funny. During the great Rachel Bonetta filled in for Matt Money Smith on the power rankings.
Filled in for the great money. They're both great.
Right.
Matt
Yeah.
Money Smith is also. You're not
The
suggesting
great
that a
Rachel
great person
Bonetta
has
filled
just
in
bumped
for
the-
the great
really
Matt Money
was like-
Smith.
I haven't seen Mark react that quickly.
Well, I just texted
Since-
Matt Money
since
Smith
Erica-
today.
Chance,
You know,
and
he's
he took
dealing
it.
with Corona, and I
Since
just
Erica
wished him
brought
well,
in
but-
like a swag bag from my podcast.
Oh, here we
the
go.
Jesselnick and Rosenthal Vandy
Here we
project.
go.
I was like, oh, I don't want that, and Mark just swoops in and grabs.
Well, it was a
grabs bunch of
specific
stuff.
type of.
It's not a
yeah,
tiny
it's
box.
Sponsor.
Everybody
it's
wants
not.
to know what's in the box that Mark wants, what personal male grooming utility he needs. I wanted to say that there was like a roll of pregame hype celebration, or getting guys hyped up before the week 8 games that they rolled during the power rankings, and all the players are just going nuts, like "Happy Halloween, man! Yeah, it's Halloween, baby!" And it's like these players love Halloween.
They're still kids.
I know. He's like, "Oh yeah, baby!" They're like high-fiving and dapping, like "Halloween, baby!"
Well, it's like there's Halloween that we all deal with, but then
It's like
suddenly
24-year-old
you're a
men.
millionaire, and Halloween could take on a whole
That's
different. I mean,
true.
you may be in the millionaire club
No,
to
I was
some
gonna
degree.
say
Ah!
absolutely not.
Okay.
I wish, would love to get there one day, but this is probably not a popular take, but Halloween, I could
Ooh.
take or leave it.
All right.
I am totally with you. Although as a parent, you have to feign ultra. I like
Right.
to take the kids out and do all that, but it's just like
another
you-
thing Mark has
that-
to fake his way.
you
through.
just have to be. My deeper feelings about Halloween, and this is all sort of a farce, but there is some fun around it.
Halloween a farce, says Cecil. I love Halloween.
Well,
I love that
well,
the kids love
it's
it.
not
like
even
a house party.
What's it
but
attached to? Like on deeper level, it's strange.
Not everything has to be on a deeper level.
You're
maybe
right.
It does.
You're right. But that's why I'm not fun to be with in general.
Let's get. We love you, Mark.
Me and Mark are fine.
Let's get back on track. I do think the bill will come due eventually with the Rams. Just for instance, the 2022 draft, they have no first-round pick, no second-round pick, 1 third-round pick, no fourth-round pick, 1 fifth-round pick, no sixth-round pick. At some point, you would think that roster is going to toll and it's going to turn over and not be pretty. But that's not the point, because if you win a title or two, you can deal with what happens after that, but you got to win.
And I think they think differently than the rest of the NFL, and I think it always helps when you're doing something that others aren't. They are getting value in these guys that they know. It's not like they're not getting value. And I think they know that Sean McVay, maybe more than any coach in the league, they believe, will hire a good staff around them and develop these guys that we don't know the names of on the Rams. There's about 7 or 8 starters every year, some on defense, some on offense, and you don't really know who they are. But they're out there, and they're playing 50 or 60 snaps, and they're contributing, and that's where they get the value from. And maybe they're looking at Les Snead and Sean McVay and what they do in the drafts, and they're thinking, well, we just spent our second-round pick on Tutu Atwell.
Right.
Who does not seem like he's going to help. He wasn't going to help the Rams this year before he got hurt, and I don't know. It's like the picks are a big time gamble.
They are.
Von is not. Von
One little nugget:
Yes.
Josina Anderson was texting with Adrian Peterson when he was being signed by the Titans, she was just like, how do you feel about dealing with Aaron Donald and Von Miller potentially days from now? He's obviously not been playing at all, and he was just like, shit. That's a whole different story.
It's a great Adrian Peterson. Can you cut that, please, for future use? All right, let's get to a trade that didn't go down. Deshaun Watson, John McClain taking the L. Love him down there.
Well, he wasn't alone.
He wasn't, but he was out front on it.
He can withstand it, though.
And I would say almost every big national voice had an almost identical report to McLean after
It was
he went,
happening.
after
That
he did.
that Deshaun Watson would be moved, and the Dolphins obviously were at the front of the pack, and you had other teams like the Panthers that were connected, then unconnected. Well, guess what? Is unconnected a word? Disconnected? Okay,
Sure,
whatever.
either way.
Anyway, the deadline has passed, as you just heard, and Deshaun Watson will remain on the Houston Texans. He will continue, and this has to be weird. I actually was thinking about it today. He does, because he has to get paid and not get fined and all that. He has to report to the facility every day, but he doesn't practice with the team. He obviously doesn't dress on Sunday. So where does he go when he's in the facility? Do you imagine he's like in the commissary on his phone?
You know
Or,
what this is like?
Where does he go?
It's like when you break up with someone, but you are still living together.
Which
Still kind of have to tiptoe around the house, and I've never done it.
Awkward.
no, but
I've
we
never
just
been in that
mentioned that
situation,
exact
but-
scenario on our Friday show.
Yes.
I don't know why, but like it is exactly like that.
I
It's very
totally listened
strange.
to the show. I'm just repeating what you know.
No. It's just that's an apt comparison.
So Watson is going to continue to do that through the end of the season because he has not been traded. Now, he will be traded, but now everything goes should go quiet, you would think, in terms of the talk around him, which is good news for the Texans because this is probably a very unpleasant situation for them in terms of the media. I refer specifically to the players and Coach David Culley. Now we will find out what happens next. But Watson stays right where he is, and that kind of, Colleen, always made the most sense in a lot of ways because the way Watson's legal situation is with the 23 lawsuits and the potential criminal prosecution in hand, he wasn't going to play this year anyway.
There's just so much unknown, and the awkward relationship that just continues now. And it's better for us because hopefully everything kind of just settles down because we don't have any clarity on anything, but we still have to talk about it when he comes up in these rumors in terms of like the trade to the Dolphins that didn't happen. But the Texans' asking price, according to Ian Rappaport, 3 first-round draft selections for a guy that has this many pending lawsuits against him. It's just so messy.
I mean, I think everyone involved looks so bad. Like everyone that went through this charade the last couple of months to get to this point. Like the Dolphins look terrible. Not just that they allowed themselves to be part of this, but that Stephen Ross, according to Ian, requested to speak with Deshaun Watson on Monday night. Or that the request wasn't granted until Monday night. Deshaun Watson, of course, looks the worst because he is responsible for all of this. He's facing, 20-plus civil charges, still facing 10-plus criminal charges. He denied the opportunity to David Tepper, also according to Ian, the Panthers owner, to speak to him. The Texans didn't want to let Watson speak to him. Eventually, they apparently did grant the permission, or that he decided to speak to him on Monday night, the night before the trade deadline. And by that point, the Dolphins had decided it was too late. So Tua Tagovailoa knows that the owner, who said he wasn't involved in football decisions, was solely, deciding the football decisions, and that they would have possibly traded for him if Deshaun Watson would have settled the civil cases. This is all from Ian's reporting. But Watson, throughout all of this, has not only pushed back on taking any responsibility whatsoever, or deny or apologizing, but he's still pushing through it. He wants everything to be out there. That's the man that these teams are trying to trade for. The Texans are doing everything they can to drive his price up. So it's like they're not cleaning this. And then the most disappointing thing for me is the media has done everything possible. And when I say media, I mean like the big national reporters has assisted Deshaun Watson's agent and really shown the power of an agent in the NFL, I think, in being able to at least mitigate the coverage of this story. And a lot of people sure seem to be trying to help them trade this guy who's facing all of these charges over the last couple of weeks. They were trying. They were saying it's happening. They're trying to, snuff out other people to jump into the trades. And you know what? All that for nothing. They were wrong. They were helping out a man who is still pending, facing all these charges. They were trying to help him and his agent out, and it didn't even work. It's just, I don't know. It's
I'm
so
totally with
disappointing.
what you're saying, but we're asking cutthroat NFL executives to take the same moral or judgment stance that we do about Watson's situation. And frankly, like, I think that you are hedging. Like, if you're one of these GMs that goes after him and you get him, you're playing off the fact that, like, essentially at some point there are myriad players throughout the league that have been involved with terrible things that a year or two later we forget about it and we continue to watch them. I'm just saying that
And that'll happen eventually for Watson, most likely. But I think just from a
not most likely it will, unless
Right.
he never plays.
From a football perspective, though, I thought it was always insane, and I don't think there is any defense, whether it's moral or not. I don't think it needed to be moral for them to get involved before any of this was settled. It never made any sense because he wasn't going to play this year. They were kidding themselves if he was ever going to play this year. And what you did to your football team, if you're David Tepper or Stephen Ross, is let your quarterbacks know, like, we're not. It's not like you helped your coaches out; you hurt them.
Right, you're putting Tua up on the podium, and he has to face these questions about the rumors as well. And it's like, meanwhile, Tua and the Dolphins' offense, they're just trying to get on track. They're trying to do something in these games, and now you have all of these distractions coming in with Deshaun Watson. It's just so messy that it got to this
And you
point.
want to be right as a reporter. Like, so many of the reports said it's happening sooner than later, could happen any day, any weekend, and it was all wrong.
But hold up. But what if Stephen Ross engaged with Deshaun Watson? I'd love to know what questions were asked or what
No,
they
he
talked
didn't
about.
in the end. He
Well,
asked for permission. It was granted
But had that
Monday night. and
had
by
that
then it was
happened,
too
and
late.
had it gone like the way that Stephen Ross would want it to, we could be talking about a very different scenario
Right.
here.
Supposedly, he also wanted them to.
I
He
just
thought it was the civil cases were going to get settled, and that would have done it for him too. Apparently.
I think there's the power of an agent and moving things along. Also, the power of a franchise quarterback in his prime. I just don't know. Like, I know you've been hard on this, Greg. You're going hard on this thing with the media. I don't know. Like, what is the play? If Stephen Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, is requesting to meet with Deshaun Watson with the interest of making a trade, do you just not report on it? I don't.
Not
like. What are you
not
saying
that
exactly?
when it's been presented this whole time, it's been presented in a way to inspire like other teams to jump into the bidding. Like, you're doing the bidding for this person, and almost to a report, it almost never brings up why you're in this situation and that he's likely not going to play this year and all of the other implications. It's just from the football side. And I think that's letting the agent and Deshaun Watson off easy every time you do it, because it's basically trying to pull the wool over the viewer's eyes that, like, what are we talking about here? We're talking about someone who is in this situation because he's being sued and facing charges for sexual assault and sexual misconduct. Like, I am amazed, and it's partly because I've heard some of these people talk behind the scenes too, and it's like they're like it's not everything has to be both sides. Like, this isn't a both sides
Greg,
situation.
do you want the agent to drop Deshaun Watson? Would that appease you on this front? Like, the agent is doing what agents do, which is, I don't really care what Greg or anyone else thinks about this side of it. I'm here to defend my client. And again, it's
That's
like
fair.
this is not the first player that has been through something that's ghastly to us or to most observers, but the agent's job, he's simply doing it, whether you like him or not.
I get it, and he is maybe the most powerful or one of the most powerful agents there is. What I don't like is trading the relationships that you have developed with the reporters over the years for this situation.
But that's
This
the
is
inside.
the
The
time.
insider game is so dirty that, like, this is not the departure point for that being a
It is
dirty.
for me on some level.
All right, but
I
I mean-
can't think of one like this.
That's how information is brokered and traded between agents and insiders. So this is not a new thing.
It
That's
just
all.
happens to be caught up in a very volatile situation and a criminal case, which makes it very thorny. And I can understand, Greg, your opinion on this. All right, let's move. We got to move.
Please.
Let's move. The deadline passed. Give it to me. Give me the Jack Bauer clock. Got Rosenthal fired up. Odell Beckham's, he's not going anywhere. But it feels like, speaking of agents and other people working behind the scenes to get what they want for their clients, not without some effort to get him moved away from a Cleveland Browns team where he has not been able to move the needle since his arrival in the trade with the Giants a couple of years back. Just on Tuesday, you had Odell Beckham Sr. Post a 11-minute video showing all the times Baker Mayfield missed Odell Beckham on passing routes over the past 2 seasons, soundtracked. And at first I was like, did ODB Senior put this together?
I do not
Because
think that
he's got
No, he
REM
commented,
on there.
right?
Yeah, no, he didn't. He posted that. I was like, he's an REM fan. That's cool. I love REM.
That's where you went for.
Yeah, that was the first thing I thought. Is like, do the Beckhams love?
I did watch a
Skype
video.
music?
What song is it?
What's Everybody Hurts? So the entirety of Everybody Hurts,
Classic.
like the most maudlin like pop hit of the last 30 years, playing to Baker Mayfield airmailing throws to Odell Beckham, and then all sorts of like amazing dad hashtags, which I'll get to in a minute. And then at the same time, this is all breaking. You have LeBron James, who's the most confusing sports fan, Connie, in the world. He's like a Cowboys fan, but he's a Browns fan. He's a Yankees fan, and then he's always at Rams games. I don't even know what's going on.
He just loves sports.
Shapeshifter.
He tweets that, you got to make Odell great again, get him out of Cleveland. I thought you were a Browns fan. I don't even know what's going on there. But at the end of the day, the Browns don't make the move. Should they have traded Odell Beckham Jr., Colleen Wolfe?
Well, I don't think that they were in a position to do that with his contract, but just in general, his dad just doing the most sports dad thing ever. I can't believe he went and got this whole thing cut up with production value of some sort to REM. He obviously had
I
been
think he
thinking about
stole
this
it.
for
I think
a while.
he co-opted
Video.
it.
Had to
but
have, right?
someone
Yeah.
did that. Someone went through the efforts.
But it's true because Odell and Baker, they just have no chemistry. And we've seen it time and time again coming off that game against the Steelers. 1 catch for 6 yards. Even Case Keenum and him had something that was a little bit better going in that game against the Broncos. So, listen, Dad, he's going for it, and it's just a little bit of a nuclear option here, but there was no chance that the Browns were going to move
How you
him,
feeling,
I don't
Mark?
think.
Well, I mean, I'd say this. It's kind of like everyone's fault to me in terms of the on-field stuff.
Everybody's fault.
That too. I mean, since 2019, Mayfield has a 69 passer rating targeting OBJ, which is, the lowest among any NFL duo with 100-plus attempts. It's just not worked out. And last year,
What? That's a crazy stat.
I know. Last year, it got me annoyed because I thought it was a narrative, but it just is playing out to be the case. Baker's numbers are much better when Odell's not been on the field, and there's people saying, well, Baker Mayfield is hesitant to throw it to Odell because Odell, if you look at it, has made his own mistakes. It's like a little bit on everyone, and we haven't heard anything from Odell Beckham. I mean, it just tells me that it's fine to say go trade him, but they got no offers that were tangible. This front office inherited Odell Beckham from John Dorsey, and you have to look at the current Andrew Berry front office and say, if anything, they've been cunning. They don't overpay. 90% of their players have not been overpaid, and when they've made little moves here and there, they've been fortuitous. And I think that they're willing to just hang with Odell Beckham for the rest of the year. He can be cut for no dead cap money this offseason. I'd be shocked if that didn't happen.
Stefanski, I read, wanted him. He didn't want to trade him. That he thought he can
He
contribute.
keeps saying
and that
he's
they
going to
kinda
get
need
him more involved in the
And blaming
offense.
himself for not
Right.
Stefanski for himself.
And I agree with what you said. There's not a easy, let's blame someone. But on that play, which I know caught your eye, Dan, and I hadn't watched it at the time that you texted, the play a lot of people were talking about. Kind
Alligator
of
arms.
looked like Odell had a little bit of alligator.
That's a season-changing catch.
Right.
He can
Here,
go up and
I
get it.
rewatched that play, though, and if you on the all 22 from both camera angles, I mean, they drew up the absolute perfect play. They always say, Shanahan's offense gives the quarterbacks the answers to the test. Odell's open early in that play. Baker is so late. He pump fakes with absolutely no one. No one is near Odell Beckham for 2.5, 3 seconds of that play. It was the absolute perfect play call. There's a lot of talk that Baker struggles to throw up the seams, whether it's his height or he's just a guy who lacks anticipation. He has to really see it open, kind of like Jay Cutler before he lets it go. On that play, it's a walk. Maybe a walk-in touchdown, but it's an easy first down to the 5 or so if he delivers it on time like a lot of quarterbacks was. And he hesitates, he pump fakes, and he throws it late and above and behind Odell, who does jump and kind of put his arm up. When you see it from the sideline, it didn't seem like a crazy bad effort. But, when they're reviewing that play, it's not Odell that's getting the -2 on their grading system. It's Baker.
All right,
on that play.
but I know Odell's one of those guys. There's always
I
defenders
got it.
out there.
That one's not about Odell, but it's about what Mark said, where it's
Yes.
both of them. That's what
yeah.
I'm saying.
That is if you are a truly elite wide receiver, that's a difference-making play where you could pick up your quarterback and make the catch, or not even make the catch, Greg. Make a better effort. And I'm not saying this is what's the problem with Odell, that he's not trying. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it is not working, and there's got to be blame assigned on both sides of this. It is Odell's fault in part. It is Baker Mayfield's fault in part. And I also agree the right move was to stay in Cleveland, and the Browns maybe get this worked out and save this thing. But I also think you're right, Mark. I think he's history after the year. You guys want to hear some great dad hashtags on this?
Oh,
Instagram?
please, yes.
Some really good ones here. So as I said, it was soundtracked by the 1992 REM hit "Everybody Hurts," off "Automatic for the People," just one of the greatest records of all time. Erica, she's in her 20s still. I see Christy Stapleton behind the glass. They don't even know. REM, "Automatic for the People." You'll thank me later. Give it a listen.
Yeah, I've heard it.
They look thrilled and really excited.
REM, yeah.
And check it out on the Throwback Podcast. Here are the hashtags. I'm a father before anything. Okay. Hashtag my twin, and they do look very similar. He's in incredible shape for a dad. Hashtag 3, my ace, with an ace of spades. So little emoji in there. That was good. Next, my A number 1. Next, and now it starts to get a little weird. Next, hashtag I'm hurting for ya. Next one, hashtag playing hurt. Next one, hashtag I hurt for him. Next one, hashtag this really hurts.
One of these are going to take off, so you just dump the
Hashtag
notebook.
very hurtful. Hashtag disrespectful. Hashtag when I hurt the hurt I know.
Well, I always actually check on that hashtag every night, just that when I heard, I know, just to see who's been posting. With
Hashtag I love Cleveland like I love home. Hashtag I love my son Mo. Number 7, hashtag 7-Eleven open, but he made the dad mistake. You put a number in there, it's not going to hashtag, so it unhashtags.
No, you're nullified.
Hashtag open, hashtag 24/7, hashtag all love, hashtag Beckham legendary.
That's a lot of hashtags.
That's next to inside. Along with that, all that business, none other than our friend Dwayne Bowe weighed in.
Dwayne Bowe.
Dwayne Bowe, like riding in on his white horse, said, "Pops." He tweeted to OBJ, "Pops, they did me the same way." This guy had like one catch with the
He was
Browns, and it was a
terrible.
raging headache. So
Raging bust. All right, let's take a break, and then we'll hit the rest of the news. All right, let's get to it. It went down Monday morning, so you know about it by now, but let's talk about it here. Derrick Henry is on the shelf. Bummer. NFL Network's Ian Rappaport reports that Henry is undergoing foot surgery. He's expected to miss 6 to 10 weeks. That was the initial report, and then I heard Ian today, saw him on NFL Network, and they said it's more closer to 8 to 10 weeks, and then you could start doing the math. I don't like to do it, but it's entering week 9. 8 weeks puts you to the end of the regular season. So in a best-case scenario for the Titans, Henry returns for the playoffs, and then you wonder what version of Henry returns coming off foot surgery as a running back. Anyway, Greg, a lot of talk about this being the end of the road for the Titans, that they're cooked now, and you could understand that side of things. How do you see it?
No, I think they're going to be a playoff team. And Derrick Henry will probably be back for the playoffs, according to Ian. So I don't think it kills them. I think their play-action passing game, especially if Julio Jones can be healthy enough, can still work. And losing Henry is massive. I kind of like the Adrian Peterson signing. I mean, he's run pretty well the last few years when you've given him the chance. And I'm not saying that Derrick Henry was struggling, but he also wasn't very efficient. You know, the last handful of weeks, you're running the ball 28 times for 79 yards, 29 times for 80 yards. He's playing great, but I think you can somewhat replace his rushing production. You can find other ways to win games and get to the end of the season, get him back. That's all.
I don't know about replace him.
I just mean
you're a little lower on him than I am.
You can
he
have
played the Colts game hurt too.
Right, that's a great
You
point.
can
I think
tell.
Adrian Peterson at least can give them something that they're not just going to fall apart because their running game is
It's an
worse.
extremely spicy signing in the sense that like if it went the right way, it would be
That'd be a nice
visually
story.
fascinating.
What do you think, Connie?
He doesn't have, obviously, Adrian Peterson doesn't have that, like, big play ability anymore like he had before, but I do think that he could help kind of keep them on track here. And Jeremy McNichols, come on, how about we give him some love? This team, they're going to throw the ball a lot more, but that's why if Julio Jones can stay healthy, that's going to look like an amazing move that they did in the offseason to kind of help out with the whole offense.
They're at the Rams this week, and there's some tough games sprinkled in. Saints right after that at New England's in there at Pittsburgh. So it's not all easy, but you have 2 games against the Texans, you have the Dolphins, and you have the Jaguars.
You should
so there's
be able to get
there's
10.
4 games, and then if you just win 1 or 2 of the other games, that's a
Well,
payoff.
and by the way, you can count on the rest of your division fumbling and bumbling to Nowheresville.
That's
yeah,
true.
They're in a good division. So this could end up in a place where Graver is okay because you're in the playoffs and you get your guy back.
He didn't come to work today because.
I don't
because
think
of
he
this.
was able to come in. He's
distraught.
Ricky said
Emotionally, it was too big of a mountain to get over.
Ricky
Should we
said
call
that
him?
Tuesday is his off day, but I don't totally buy it. I think Graver showed a little bit of a lack of professionalism. I'll go out.
It's out
go
there.
that
Whoa.
far. And Erica not jumping in because she doesn't.
It's like we get it.
Graver
You
gets
you
popped.
host the Titans podcast, but this is just like you don't even know Derrick Henry personally, and the team can still win. Like you just have.
Overall,
I
it's
think
over
they
a
will. I think it's gonna the old adage. I don't know if it's an old adage, but as long as you have your quarterback still, I think the offense, and they have a very good quarterback in Ryan Tannehill, even without Henry, I think they're gonna be okay. They're just not as good anymore. And I will say this is not the best development to now have to put more on the idea of Julio Jones being a big part of this team because that signing is not or that trade has not worked out for them so
No.
far. He's always hurt. He's had a hamstring injury that will not go away. So if they get Julio Jones back, if he stays healthy, if A.J. Brown could stay healthy, if Ryan Tannehill stays healthy,
A lot of ifs.
I think they're okay, but not a good situation. In other news, this is brutal. This is really terrible news. Out of Las Vegas, Tuesday morning here on the West Coast, Henry Ruggs, the 2020 first-round pick of the Raiders, who's having a really good season this year, is facing a driving under the influence charge after a fiery vehicle crash early Tuesday in Las Vegas, left one woman dead. Ruggs and his female passenger were injured, Las Vegas police said, and Ruggs, who's 22, showed signs of impairment at the scene, and the police said in a statement that he will be charged with felony DUI resulting in death. And Mark, your thoughts are with the victims here who were involved with the accident, a fiery crash in Las Vegas, and just a terrible story all the way around that's unfolding as we do this podcast. But Henry Ruggs is in a lot of trouble right now.
Yeah, it happened at reported time 3:40 in the morning. So you can only wonder what the lead up to that was. Totally tragic. It changes everyone for the people that have been lost. But if you're Henry Ruggs, you're still a human being too, and you spend the rest of your life thinking about this. I had a friend growing up where something similar happened when they were a teen, and that person who's left behind where other people were removed. Your life will be changed forever, and there's the on-field side of it too, but it really has nothing to do with this at this point.
You don't wish this upon anybody.
No.
This is awful and unfortunate and just so terrible and gut-wrenching for everyone all around. And then just looking at the Nevada laws with Henry Ruggs there, I mean, he's facing between 2 and 20 years in prison for this. So just the mental component of knowing this moving forward, and just a terrible, dumb mistake that could have been avoided if this was, in fact, a DUI.
In other news, as we pivot back to football on the field, the Vikings will be without Danielle Hunter for the rest of the season. Vikings coach Mike Zimmer confirmed that Hunter suffered a torn pec in Week 8 against the Cowboys. He'll miss the remainder of the season, and that is a tough blow for the Vikings, Greg, because Hunter was a big-time contributor for their defense. He was averaging a sack a game. He missed all of last year with a disc issue. And now he will miss the rest of this year. So injury issues killing Hunter, and it's going to really hurt this Vikings.
I think he's the most valuable player on that defense. In Damashek parlance, he might be the Jenga piece. And the 2 guys you could maybe least afford to lose would be him and Patrick Peterson, who's out at least for now and for a few more weeks with an injury. And, yeah, that makes our guy Kirk Cousins' life a lot tougher. It's just hard to see them being like a really good defense. And they've been pretty good, I would say, on balance. But without Hunter, I can't claim.
Our guy, Kirk Cousins, feels a little bit strong.
It's such a bummer.
Maybe your
I don't
guy.
even know why he's definitely not my guy. I don't.
Well,
even
you're the
know.
one slithering in. You're
I was
oiled
just-
up and slithering into his plexiglass cube.
Oiled.
Yeah,
right?
I was.
Well, that's
just-
right. That
I was
was
saying
God.
right.
that he was playing pretty well this year, and then the thing happened that we were worried about. That it's like you get into prime time, and then it didn't happen. This is a
Why-
killer. This is a killer for the Vikings.
Why again do you have to get all oiled up and
To get
and
into
take
the
off your
cube.
clothes
Well, to
to
fit
get
in-
in there
well-
too?
well-
Wasn't that part of it?
Dude, he has to be completely.
Right.
Dan
Yeah.
said
I'm
that
just- right.
again.
was I wrong?
A window into Dan's mind. You know.
No, it's practical. It's
I was right
Is
there
it?
with you. I think it's from a physical. You want to make this
Right.
work. This is how you. If
There's
you need to get
limited
Greg in there,
space.
you oil him up. He's got nothing on. He's very smooth.
it's very smooth, like a seal. Because he
Very
has
much like a
these
seal.
these
That's so
products
weird.
from his other podcasts, the grooming products. So you
Right.
groom them
They're
down,
very effective.
you lather them up, and you slide them right into the cube. Put a mask on though, bro.
Do you have a name for the cube? Other than the cube? Maybe
Well,
that's
I'm
something
sure
we can come up with.
he and Kirk have their own
The
little
slather
names.
box.
You guys can live out your
lexicons.
little Kirk Cousins, bubble fantasies.
I'm glad this came up
on
today.
your own.
It's a Greg
question.
Rosenthal bubble fantasy.
Right. It
for
at
me
least is
personally.
half Greg fantasy.
All right, let's
Aspect.
do a little before we get to Monday night.
Actually, let's do a little breaking news, shall we?
What is it? Oh!
Better be.
It's like just on the borderline. Deshaun Jackson has been released
Ow.
from the Los Angeles Rams.
You know what that means?
They couldn't find a trade.
They were
partner.
like, we will give you a maybe 7th round pick, with a conditional 7th round pick if he has one catch beyond 12 yards, and the other teams were like, nah, we're good.
I can't
Yeah.
believe he was asking for a trade. What are you doing?
I
You
just-
you came back home. He's from LA. The Rams are a good team, and he's like, nah. I'm Deshaun Jackson. I want out.
It's not
That's an Eagles fan
2014 right
talking,
now.
by the way.
so.
You hear the Eagles fan coming out.
I don't-
That ungrateful monster.
yeah, I wonder how it all transpired.
You're right, though. I mean,
Right?
Or they told him they were going to cut him, and
Mm.
out of respect to him, then said, we'll try to trade you first. I don't really know, but it's pretty telling that they cut him, even though they just put Tutu Atwell on IR for the rest of the year. Atwell was really struggling, but they basically drafted a backup for Deshaun Watson, a 158-yard guy who goes down the field and can return, who is now out for the season, and yet they're still cutting Deshaun.
if I were a team,
It could be a personality issue. If
Right,
It starts to sound that way a little bit.
That sounds like he probably wasn't thrilled with
D-Jax,
getting 4 snaps a game.
you could go back in the archives and find some D-Jack stuff that is not
He
so.
could have gotten a ring,
nice.
though. Who knows? He could have had a moment.
I would say this, and I don't know if he's interested in it, but if you're a contender that's not happy with your punt return game, for instance, I mean, maybe he's a guy that you investigate, but you don't really hang it. If you're looking to open up your offense at this point, he's just not the same guy.
He feels like a Patriot if they didn't already have Pro Bowl returner Gunnar Olszewski.
Gunnar Olszewski. All right, let's hit afternoon delight. All right, there's a certain element of football Twitter that just obsesses over Philip Rivers. So, Greg, go ahead, have your fun. Not only would he, quote, listen to the Saints, listen to a team, it's the Saints, Greg's other hardcore crush. Go ahead, Greg.
That would be great. He could replace and then ultimately, maybe do what Drew Brees couldn't in the last year.
Ooh.
That would be in the last 10 years. At least.
Greg is so football polyamorous that it's starting to concern me.
What is it? Why is Philip Rivers? There's this.
I guess they don't want him though. It doesn't sound like
Of
they're
the football
too interested.
cognoscenti that's like, oh, Philip Rivers.
It
Well,
would
I
be a
just-
fun story.
I did
He's
a
fun
search.
guy
I
to
did a
watch.
Philip Rivers search in Twitter just to figure out what was going on here, and it was like, oh, this person and this person. It's like I think there's a certain group of football, plugged in people that just adore Philip Rivers. It's like, how about your high school team you're coaching? I guess that season's
It's
wrapping.
over
up.
now. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
got nothing else going on.
I don't know.
He's got
I
time to
enjoy
listen.
him to some degree,
You
but
telling me
I
he
don't
wouldn't be better than Trevor Simeon?
Here,
Taysom Hill's got to ruin another.
honestly, I do think Peyton though sounds very dug in on keeping the
Yeah,
quarterback.
I don't
they
think
have.
they're interested,
And
That-
nobody-
which doesn't surprise me.
Speaking of people that nobody wants, Cam Newton cannot get a job. There's been multiple options that have opened up here, still out there. Anyway,
including the Panthers.
Melvin Ingram is heading to the Chiefs, and I saw segments of football Twitter excited about this, Connie.
Oh,
But also, a
yeah.
lot of people are excited about Melvin Ingram to the Steelers, and that didn't quite work out either.
It didn't, and his time was reduced playing behind TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. So he goes to the Chiefs, which we know that they could use some help on the defense. They're allowing 391 yards per game, 29th in the NFL. Maybe he could make some pop there.
All right. Also, we have Charles Omenihu.
Omenihu?
Say it again.
Omenihu.
To the 49ers. And let's see what else we got. We got Mark.
When I asked Seth Payne for a potential breakout player on the Texans this year, that was the name he gave me back in July. So it's I
so
trust
naturally
his
they
scouting.
ship him out of
I
Well, he
trust
broke
the
out of
scouting.
Houston. That's what he was able to do. So good for him. And the doctor's in the house. Dan Brown, the tight end, traded to the Chiefs, coming back to gangrene. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, MD, doctor. And actually, that's a nice sign. That's a 5-year starter for the Chiefs in the past. Sat out last year helping people during the COVID pandemic. And now a guard added to the Jets mix. The Jets always need to find more offensive linemen. That's the trade deadline.
Poor Allen Robinson. Still
You're right.
stuck in
Forget about Free
Chicago.
Odell, who hasn't made a play in 5 years. Free Allen Robinson.
He needs it. He's so underappreciated.
He's like, I'm still working on chemistry with quarterback X.
Bortles, Trubisky, Foles, Henny.
They like removed him from the offense
Yikes.
too. It's like, all right.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up Week 8, Monday Night Football.
Daniel Jones with Devontae Booker. On fourth down, they had a touchdown where Chiefs run a twist. Jones is hit. Down he goes. Down he goes, and now he flips it off to a lineman who goes down.
That won't work.
Chiefs will get a hold here. Frank Clark and Chris Jones on back-to-back sacks to win the game.
It's good they won. Chiefs had fun.
Ooh.
But there are still major problems here. Did you watch that game? Mitch Holtis with the call. Yes. The Chiefs defense showed up and was able to keep the Giants from putting up much of anything, just a touchdown in the second half, and then they got the field goal they needed to win it. So it's 2017 win for the Chiefs. But you know, Mark, still not right. You watch the Chiefs, and they're still not right. Not only did they have your now obligatory horrendous red zone turnover, an interception from Mahomes, there are a couple other turnovers that got wiped away, whether it was a penalty that took it off the board or a fumble that the offensive lineman luckily fell on. That continues to be a thing. And even worse, the offense still is really jagged, and Patrick Mahomes is having trouble getting on target with the receivers. There's still so much wrong with the Chiefs. I don't feel any better about them despite the win.
Everything's not beautiful right now. Those were the words from Andy Reid.
I thought
after
that
the
was
game.
you.
Well, I mean, I kind of love the quote because I was like, that's how I feel watching this team. I think that
That's how I feel about life.
Oh, all sorts of
yeah.
things. But this just kind of fit in there. But like the gallant and glorious Chiefs that we are still like they don't exist right now. And I think it's a pretty fascinating study in like all of us collectively watching football and watching this team that we could have just ticketed for the Super Bowl, that our eyes have taken a long time to adjust. And, you know, this is up Greg's alley, but like they're getting killed against the spread because they're being the spread's too big on the Chiefs. They don't deserve these riches.
People don't want to accept that this is a potential long-term issue. Everyone is on the same page. Like, no. They're going to get right. They're going to get right. And they never get right.
Vegas is loving it. I mean,
Yeah.
they're building new wings to the Mirage on the Chiefs.
Let me tee you up like this, Greg. We now live in a world where Tyreek Hill could be targeted 18 times on Monday Night Football, turn those 18 targets into 12 catches, and not finish with 100 yards receiving.
Oof.
I keep hearing people say, like, if Mahomes and the Chiefs would just be patient and stop trying to force. I was like, what is this? They threw it 48 times for 270 more yards. Like, patience isn't the problem. Patience is the problem. There's no big plays. Like, yes, okay, it's great when you go up and down the field slowly and you're taking the safe plays, but they're averaging 5 yards per play or less in 3 of their last 4 games. So that's not just the turnover. That's like bottom of the league numbers in terms of yards per play. So there's no big plays. There's no running game. So just piling up a bunch of first downs on the way to like 360 yards against the Giants isn't going to do it. Like, they're not getting there on the scoreboard. That part matters.
We all lost this game. Like, there were no winners. Watching this game, it just feels like the Chiefs are a shell of themselves. All of those penalties, how many? 12 for
12.
103. It's just so
I find it
sloppy.
interesting, though, to watch the Chiefs struggling this much.
Really?
To me, it makes good TV because it's so surprising. You're like, I can't believe this
It's
is
like
happening.
a mystery.
How about Travis Kelce with the fumble? I'm like,
Right.
what? How is that possible? And he was on the sideline for a while and then came in. It's just,
And they won.
yes, it didn't feel like
Right,
it,
but
though,
Reed
right?
said
No, it
that
did not.
afterwards. I think Michael Irvin came on the Manning cast, and I thought what he said about
It was hilarious, by the way.
he was great, but just you've been the champs, you've been up there for so long, and mentally that when you work on something all week, we can't do these turnovers. We know how defenses are going to play us. Every week it's the same exact Chiefs game, and they can't get out of it, and they keep just making the mistake. And he says it'll just drive you crazy, and there's no like easy solution to where they are mentally. And he thinks like Mahomes and Reed and all of it. You can hear it with that comment. That Andy Reid is usually not the coach you hear saying things like that.
Imagine if we knew in August that this would be a Patrick Mahomes stat coming out of a real game. 15 for 15 for 120 yards on passes behind the line of scrimmage. That is the most by a quarterback in a game since 2016.
Right,
According
and
to
1
Next
for
Gen
11
Stats.
outside the numbers. Like, they can't get more patient. They're retreating. They're, like, backing up. So, I don't know. They have to figure out a way to get big plays because that's like, what the Chiefs are. I don't
19
know how that works.
incompletions. This
but-
is not. This is like he's trying. All these quarterbacks that are pressing because they're young. It's like they're trying to make big plays and it's not working.
It's
and
not
the
there.
Giants, I thought, did a nice job on defense to kind of just like rush 3 guys a bunch of times and just cloud the secondary and
Right, there
leave
was
nobody open.
It was crazy because there was no pass rush, which just makes you
None.
it just you're not used to. Okay, the Giants have 0 pass rush, and yet they're stopping the Chiefs.
So now if you're trying to rationalize how do the Chiefs fix this, you think, okay, they're 4-4. The rest of the AFC West is kind of calmed down a little bit here. The Chargers have come back to the pack. The Broncos are ready for a rebuild of some kind. The Raiders are the Raiders. You don't know what to expect from them, but they're not going to, win 14 games. So it's like it's still there for the Chiefs to get things under control and get a home game and win a division. But then you look at their road ahead, and you got the Packers up next. And then beyond that, the toughest schedule in the NFL from this point forward. And you just wonder if this is going to end in a way that nobody could have predicted, which is a relatively healthy Chiefs team just bottoming out and not making the playoffs. And I wonder, I guess this is the last part of my brain that's like, I refuse to accept that the Chiefs are this vulnerable, is that they will rise to the competition and we'll see a great shootout with the Packers, Connie. But at the same time, there's too much evidence right now that they're going to continue to scuffle on offense.
Well, especially against the Packers, who have won 7 straight games. They've just been on a tear, and the Chiefs, they just can't, it seems when I watch them, they just can't adapt to their new reality, which is what we have seen all season long. And Mahomes, he keeps pressing, he keeps trying to take those deep shots, and they're just not working. It worked a little bit when they were running the ball, the offense did, a tiny bit. And we saw Derek Gore score his first touchdown. But Andy Reid, having watched him so long in Philly and so many times just screaming at him to run the ball more, I don't think that's going to happen.
That's sort of the
necessarily.
That is sort of the answer, or to run the ball better.
And the Packers are absolutely going to target Daniel Sorensen. I mean, he was Waldo out there, and he's been Waldo. And Sorensen gave up a perfect passer rating to Daniel Jones. So even Evan Ingram got a touchdown on him. It's not pretty what we're seeing.
If you want to make a case for them, their defense has played well for 6 quarters. Their defense won them that game.
Well, I mean, against the Giants' offense, which again is missing like 42 people.
Tony got hurt during the game. Shepard got hurt during the game, and who else was
Dante
it?
Pettis.
Got hurt during the game. It's crazy how this is every week.
Yeah, you wonder,
Sorry.
like, what did the Giants do? What did they do to deserve this injury luck? You enter that game without Barkley, without Galladay. You lose Shepard. You lose Pettis. Tony is compromised with a thumb injury. And Daniel Jones, we talked about it on the TV show, Greg. We both kind of like Daniel Jones. But so you can't really put it at his feet because, Mark, who is he throwing to at the game on the line in that spot? It's like Evan Ingram and pray for, I don't know, a thunderstorm to take everyone off.
John Ross, maybe.
Right. A big C, as you'd say. Like Darius Slayton was dangled in trade rumors as well. I mean, but I think if anything, if you're the Giants, like you come out of this season, let's just say it plays out and there's sort of milquetoast from here to the end. With a different opinion of Daniel Jones that I went into the season with, and that maybe is your positive. One little Giants nugget, like I know that they Joe Judge looked terrible burning those timeouts.
The headsets.
Right, he basically came out
we
and
have
like
that.
he had.
Let's
Oh
listen
yes,
to that.
like it's very spicy.
At every single stadium this year, home and away, I've had issues personally. Look, I don't know. Look, I don't want to make this all about headsets. We have things. I'd say this: whoever's in charge of it, whoever the guys who, look, Jordan, I don't know the exact answer. I don't know if that comes more through the league or us exactly, but they better fix it fast. Yeah.
That was like us before the show.
Yeah.
Right, no show had that persisted in that there was no show for
we
the
found a
Giants.
way
So-
to-
I mean, that sounded like passing the buck. I have a very stern warning. You know, the NFL put out this statement where they even did product placement in the statement that it could not be the fault of the Bose headphones.
No,
they
no,
said
no.
Bose. That was an official statement from the NFL.
With like a restricted circle around Bose and all caps in the statement.
I love when he says like it could be the NFL, it could be our people. Like if it is, like you potentially taking like 8 Giants employees and just whipping them under an 18-wheeler. Like,
Joe Judge, I don't think will be there next year if this continues. Daniel Jones felt like he was collapsing a little under the weight of everything. That was one of his worst 2 games. He's had 2 where he's not really played well. This one in the Cowboys. Joe Judge has been outscored I couldn't believe the stat. I had no idea, but they just put it up on the graphics last night. The Giants have been outscored 42-0 in the final 2 minutes of the final 2 minutes of the first half in games this year.
Whoa.
What?
Whoa.
That is coaching. That is coaching. Like, if I think about Bill Belichick, for instance, what advantage does he give you? He gives you the advantage in the final 2 minutes of the first half and the second half. That is coaching. They lost this game partially because of penalties and taunting and stuff, and that's, like, all Joe Judge talks about. So, like,
Elijah Penny.
what are you giving us here,
doing
Joe
with that
Judge?
taunting?
That's
man,
I couldn't
Right.
believe
Don't
that
you
stat.
remember when he dove at training camp on the ball in the rain?
Sure.
And all the players mobbed him? You remember that?
yeah.
Yeah.
That was cool.
You were not a fan of that when it occurred, though.
No, I think
Yeah.
he's cooked. I think Joe Judge is cooked. I think the Giants are heading towards a reboot, and Cook and obviously Gettleman make the most sense.
I do wonder, like, when they interviewed Joe Judge, who wasn't a coordinator calling plays, he's not that guy. It's like, why? Like, these interviews are like 14 hours long. I would put them through like a grilled, I'd have Greg run it, like an insane end of half test where we need to see Joe Judge, clock management Joe Judge, thriving in that scenario. You don't want to find out in
Don't you
week
think
one
we
that he
should
can't
find
do
a
it.
way to test Greg Rosenthal's clock management when he's not sitting in a podcast studio 12 hours after the game?
I love
With
it.
like
I do it
82,
at the
with
time.
82
I do it
people
while
on a
we're
headset
watching.
swearing at you.
We need a
I'd yell.
real-time simulation. We need like one of those like virtual reality things, and then you put them inside like when they're like flight training or whatever, and just give him the game experience of the sidelines.
I don't want to be the
noise.
coach. I want to be the guy up in the booth
Tell
that's
him
just
exactly
saying,
what
take the time out now.
happens.
You know, that guy.
Right, but I'm not saying you couldn't do it, but I'd like to see it. I'd like to see how it plays out. That's all.
Joe Judge has a shot here. They have 9 games left. Like, I think they've been better than their record shows. I keep saying that. Like, this is where the end of the season does matter for these teams. Like, if they finish 7-10, the Maras will convince themselves to keep him. So it's like, to him, those 9 games matter. If they
But
can go
does-
5-4 in their final 9, it's like they'll probably keep
Does
it.
Judge get, I mean, outside of the time management sins, like, he also hasn't had all those players on the field, same
Right.
as Daniel
That's
Jones.
fair.
Right. Joe Judge and Rick Bisaccia this week,
Yes, Sasha.
who is grew up a Giants fan.
Oh, both
Oh.
special teams coach.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Chris Tabor for the Bears had a little juice, added a little
did.
juice without Nagy. All the special teams coaches.
Fun fact: 37% of Giants fans, their last name is Bisaccia. And how about clock management simulation chamber? We get Rosenthal in there and just see what happens.
I think it'd be
Hook 'em up.
it would
I hope
be
it's not
great
like,
for social.
You're right. It's different when you're in the arena. When you like, it was easy to answer those Win West's toaster questions, and then suddenly you got into the competition and you
I
couldn't
should-
remember.
Just stuffing him in a closet.
Wes, who
with the
famously
chamber?
acknowledged, like myself, had like these time management things that you bring up. Like that was one blind spot for Wes that he would say he had no idea what's happening at the end of these
And
halves, and I agree with him.
one more thing before we take a break here and hit Thursday Night Football. In the chamber, in the clock management simulation chamber, CMSC, you need to be stripped down and lubed up
Stop it.
to get in. You slip
Yeah, you're
right
at
in.
home with that,
This is
Greg.
weird fan.
We'll be right back.
Right? Yeah. I take it as a compliment. It's like these guys really want it.
All right, Priyanka, take it away. Wait.
your own ways.
Such a great singer.
This song is delightful.
The only problem with this song.
No, I hate that they moved off this. This was my favorite. Then it's all these other clunky
This was
things.
before. It's unfortunate Colleen never got to work on a broadcast that
it's a
was
bummer.
kicked off by Priyanka.
I know.
Can you just play it one more time, Ricky? The only thing, because I've listened to the song in full recently, when we did the live shows in London, I put together, and you can find it on Spotify, a like best of ATN playlist, and I dug out this one, Your City, or whatever it's called. Will.i.am's fingerprints, like 2010 era Will.i.am, are all over this.
Oh my gosh, it is. You're right. He's on this.
So it's like all you hear is like gun 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 come on, and all this like Black Eyed Peas bullshit.
This was the song was nominated for a World Music Award, for World's
Absolutely.
Best
Wow.
Song.
Not a surprise.
Come
I'm not going to be able to
on.
get that out of my head now.
And they'd have like, if it was the Giants per se, like it was like Daniel Jones's face like shimmering along the Empire State Building.
Right.
Plus,
It
I
had all
love
the
the
elements.
I love the lyrics too, because you can really dive into them. Everybody's welcome here. Everybody welcome to my city. We ain't got no worries here. I know you're gonna like it in my city.
Let's get it back.
It's also not true of any city.
No.
Come
So
on, come
there's-
on.
You got a friend in me. You ain't gonna want to leave.
All right, Thursday, November 4th, 2021, Week 9 commences with the New York Jets, fresh off that really fun victory over the Bengals, where Mike White threw for 400 yards in his first career start. So much fun. Now they go to Indianapolis to face the Colts. So it's the Jets at Lucas Oil Stadium. The Colts are favored by 10.5 points, which seems a little bit high. I'm going to say it. Connie, you will be in Indianapolis, where I understand it's going to be in the 20s, and the set will be outside. That's just rumors that I heard from a source.
20s?
The source being Andrew Siciliano. You
Wait,
have
seriously?
It's
Yeah,
gonna be in the
sounds-
tw- I did not know that.
I heard
I
that.
thought it was
Why
gonna
would
be
you be
cold, but not that
outside? It's
cold.
so
Highly
nice in that
unpleasant.
stadium.
Pre-game show is outside.
No, I get it, but I mean,
So anyway, I would say just from a broadcast standpoint,
Oh,
Connie,
no.
Just-
on NFL
they do the
Network,
combine from the inside.
Good
of
luck
that
to you, I
stadium.
would
It's
say.
fine. You know.
I think we have to be outside in Minneapolis too.
brutal.
All
Anyway,
right, it's fine. I'm
the
not
Jets,
complaining.
The
I'm not
Jets,
complaining.
not a lot of juice, obviously, still 2-5, but at least you have this Mike White follow-up game and the Colts in a virtual must-win situation.
I love Mike White. I don't know how you feel about him, but coming into this game, when I was watching the games on Sunday and watching Carson Wentz give the game away and lose, I had Mike White, and he's kind of like my knight in shining armor riding into this Thursday night
Ow.
game, because we need something like him, because the Jets before, I'm not going to lie, it wasn't that exciting.
I don't take offense to that.
But I loved how poised he was. I loved how confident he was, throwing for over 400 yards and those 3 touchdowns against the Bengals, who everybody was so excited about. So excited about that defense specifically in Cincinnati, and having never played a snap before in his first career start. Love it. But I'm
I'll tell you this, because we saw Robert Saleh say after the game on Sunday that
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible. If Mike White, and this is all, Jets fans are just getting sucked in because you know something very bad is going to happen on Thursday. Whether it's Mike White is injured on the first possession or Mike White throws 5 interceptions. It's coming. And I'm telling you, football gods, you can't surprise me because I know something bad's coming, so you can't hurt me. I just know that I know, football gods. Anyway.
how you
but
doing? Are you all right?
If
You
I
good?
mean, when you openly
Right.
verbally challenge the football gods, they'll find a way to
right.
surprise
Plus, you did
with
say
something.
10 felt like a lot. It does feel like.
Well,
a lot.
what I'm saying
It
is
feels
if-
like they're begging you to take the Jets, which is a concern.
if the football gods somehow overlook this game and they're like, oh, I thought the Jets were playing on Sunday. We wanted to bang them. And Mike White plays really well again. Zach Wilson's not playing Week 10. He is not. They are going to say, take another week on that knee. And Robert Saleh is going to straight up be like, I want to see if I could ride something here with this kid. We're a long way away from that, Mark. But the fact that that's even a subplot that you get to watch and enjoy, I'm happy about.
He kind of reminds me of like Kelly Holcomb when he came out of nowhere and just started throwing like 400 yards
More
like
like
every
Kurt
third
Warner.
game. And like, well, but a lot of this, like the Jets, if you go watch that,
Holcomb took him to the playoffs.
Holcomb was like a thing that unseated Tim Couch. And I'm just saying these things happen. And I kind of like Saleh's open-mindedness to like, let's ride this thing out. Like, don't bury a hot hand. And Zach Wilson maybe could use a little rest. But a lot of it came last week. I mean, he threw the ball 45 times. yards after the catch was like 60% of the yardage. I thought they got Michael Carter on the ground to get going finally. It looked like a functional offense, and I thought that Mike White also, the thing I liked about him, like I think I tweeted like after an early, he started 9 for or 11 for 11. Mike White is a god. Like 1 second later, he threw a killer interception. I just wrote Mike White is not a god, but I should have done another tweet on top of that tweet at some point saying Mike White might be a god because the way he came back from all that nonsense was very resilient. And you guys are going to hate that I keep mentioning this, but I think that there was a fair amount of comfort on Mike LaFleur's part to not have to be down on the sideline coaching Zach Wilson person. He was up in the booth, seeing the whole thing, and Mike White basically said, "I don't need the coach down the sideline. I'm ready to roll." So there's something about this.
About Camp Happiness in Connecticut.
No,
that's what I thought you were leading into. So that no,
I could.
Welcome. That's good football
but
now.
Yeah, I just think that he's married too. He has I believe twins or it's a child of some sort. Very nice man.
That's great.
Well, I don't think it's a slight to Zach Wilson. Yet you did do a lot of investigating.
I did. There was lots
to
investigate. I can tell you that.
What's going on? I don't think it's a slight to Zach Wilson to say that Mike White showed a clear, bigger command of the offense.
New York City.
Like the ball's coming out of his hands. He knew where to go with it. They're calling all these Shanahan-type plays, and it's just like I think at this point, he's been in the league for 4 years, not all with Mike LaFleur, but he was a draft pick in 2018, that he was ready for the opportunity and that he just understands the offense more than a rookie did. And it just made me feel better about what the Jets are trying to do on offense because, as Mark said, it just looked like an NFL offense again.
Mm-hmm. That Joe Flacco trade kind of looks weird now.
Yeah, Flacco is so
It's got to be
annoyed.
super peeved.
Yeah, so my guard's up whether that was a once in a lifetime thing with your backup quarterback in his first start, and I'll be accepting if that's what it is, and I'll just be happy that it ever happened. But maybe it turns into like the NFL version of Linsanity, and he gets hot, and it'll be interesting to see. On the Colts side, yeah, like they've had crushing losses before this season, and they've bounced back. You may recall the loss to the Ravens on Monday night a few weeks back, that they let that game get away. They followed that up with wins over the Texans and Niners, and now they have another crushing loss to the Titans. But, however, as we know, Derrick Henry's not in the picture anymore. You got the Jets this week in your building. Go get a W there. You got the Jaguars next week, one of the worst teams in football, in your building. Get a W right there. Then you're 5-5, and then you could check out, and the schedule tightens up then because you got Bills and Bucks. But let's see where they are in 2 weeks, this division, with Tennessee 2 weeks without Derrick Henry and the Colts hopefully taking care of two of the worst teams in the league. Maybe the AFC South isn't done yet.
It may not be done, but it is fool's gold to me on some level that the Colts have lost 8 straight games. This is not the fool's gold part. They've lost 8 straight games to teams above 500. I mean, they are a solid team that beats bad teams, but like we're talking about projecting them into late December, not sure I need it.
Well, I'm not projecting.
What is the
Super
former
Bowl,
Eagles?
but
What were
Carson
you thinking
Wentz?
watching Wentz?
2 picks in the last 8 minutes of that game.
You loved it.
Not great.
You
Not
loved
great
it,
for
though.
him.
Yeah,
of course.
It's funny because I think he's been better than people realized this year for the most part, but then he went like full Wentz, and weirdly the reaction in Indianapolis was like blaming Frank Reich after the game. I'm like,
no.
Frank Reich's the only reason you guys got a chance. Frank Reich did it to himself. Like he came in and I love Frank Reich. I think he's one of the best play callers.
Same.
And he also has this like when he blames everything on himself, it's not the Belichick move where he just like says that. Frank Reich seems torn up inside. Like he was putting it all on himself, and they sort of bought that. Like I shouldn't have called that tight end screen in the end zone where Wentz ended up throwing the pick six. It's like, yeah, but every other quarterback would have just thrown it at the running back's feet right away. Like, so don't put it all on you, Frank Reich. It's the guy you brought in.
Talking about the hideous pick six?
Right, yeah.
That was, all right. I am not defending Carson Wentz's throw.
It was a
play.
Tricky play, but he could have
really
thrown it at
messed
the
up.
feet. That's
So
all.
his body was going – I watched it a few times yesterday. His body was going away from the running back went the other direction.
Mm-hmm.
And then he did have a tight end. I think Alistair.
It was Ali Cox. It was
Ali
a tight
Cox
end screen. Yeah.
He was in flat, but there was either an offensive lineman in front of blocking his vision there, so he couldn't do it without hitting his lineman, which I guess would have been grounding. So he just I guess it was a panic, but there wasn't like a clear like, oh, that was so easy. You should have done this. It was a tricky,
That's fair.
messed
he
up
switched
play.
hands and
Now-
threw from his left.
Now, there's one other thing that I took out of the game, Connie, and I'm sure this happened in Philadelphia as things got grisly near the end there. Check out the body language of the other Colts players on that pick six, and then also on the interception, which, by the way, Jonathan Taylor was wide open over the middle, where it's just like, come on, man. We're trying to win a ball game here. We're trying to stay in this division.
That in hindsight, with Henry
Raise
getting
your
hurt,
flag.
imagine if they won that game. They had multiple drives in overtime.
Yep.
They could have won it.
Changed everything.
Just one quick thing for the Jets defense was they were different with Jared Davis and especially C.J. Mosley back, and they're going to be trying to stop a very good Colts running back in Taylor.
My favorite thing about that Wentz play, and people are acting like it had to be a safety or an interception. Well, no, it didn't. But when he's ripped to the ground, he kind of peeks his head up and looks at like the upshot of what he's just done, and the look on his face. I mean, he's still got a face mask on. Was beautiful.
Okay. Mark still, because the Browns passed on Carson Wentz, and that was an issue for a while, but now it's not an issue, and you like to have your fun.
That's
with
true.
things.
Remember all the
Well,
time?
that's you and Sam. You're doing like Sam Darnold dance around your house every night. It's the same thing. Like when
What's
the
the Sam
quarterback
Darnold
you had. Or
How do
could
you
have
know
had-
about my Sam Darnold dance?
I mean, Greg's there. Like from what I know. So
Just think of all the time, though, you wasted, worrying, internally combusting because you thought Carson Wentz was going to turn into like this Hall of Famer. That's all.
well,
you didn't need to do that.
remember when the Browns front office was getting roasted for various people saying we didn't see Carson Wentz as a franchise quarterback? Check that box. You were
Hey,
correct, baby.
Browns management wins again.
Well, okay, that's strong.
All right. Good stuff. I like no, football gods, you're not going to get me. I know what you're going to do. I know it's out. I know it's coming. But if you're a person that likes the desert, keep an eye on this one.
So they're dragging Mike White out
What
to
does
like
that even
20-degree
mean?
weather with you?
For the
White.
Jets
I
to
think
win.
it's- I think
You're
it's gonna
saying
be
you
a
like the
close
Jets
game.
to win.
I think that's
Because
a
they're a
lot of
heavy
wood.
underdog.
That's a ton of wood to lay on a Jets team that's feeling revitalized. Now, the Jets famously play down to expectations, so they could show up like the Patriots game version of the Jets as well. But just keep an eye on it.
We've had like Nick Mullins games before on Thursday Night Football, so it wouldn't be the craziest thing to have Mike White coming to the podium,
Oh,
coming to
that's
the
right.
deck.
They're
the
dragging
podium.
him out to 20-degree.
Well, no, I don't think
temperatures
that
with
they'll
you?
have the roof open there, so I think it should be
Oh, you'll- at
good
that point,
inside.
okay.
But
See
just
why
the
Hilton's
outside.
hurt again, or else he would be a good one. I'm trying to think of some spicy.
Quentin Nelson
Spicy
was
Colts
not in the
player.
walkthrough either for Tuesday's practice, so that's something to keep an eye on. Connie, you've said it all.
I have.
Please, if you do speak with Mike White,
Tell him you
tell
love
him
him.
I said hello.
Okay.
Tell him I'm in love with him.
No problem.
If you don't speak with him, as I expect you not to, because I know what's happening here and I know what's about to happen, and you can't do this to me because I know what's happening.
Oh, this is so sweet of you, and so
Then-
sad also to see the internal workings of this.
Tell the Colts congratulations on the win.
I mean, you kind of want to see Connie with Carson Wentz because something could go down there to some degree.
Carson Wentz has to put a mask on immediately upon
Right.
re-entering the field for handshakes. So I don't know if do you want a guy with the mask during the interview process? Is that even allowed to interview him?
You can take off the
I
mask
think
for the
I think we would have to get off of the desk
Is-
and then
It's not happening.
like
It's
there
not
one
worth it.
person.
It's not a great interview.
Is there a
anyway.
cube that we can get Greg into with Carson Wentz? Slather Greg up. All right.
I mean, I take this all as a compliment. That this
Huge.
is what
You should.
want.
That's
I like that you're
absolutely
protecting
how
yourself
you
though,
should.
Dan, against potential
I know.
disappointment.
I know. I've been through this before. Only now I'm modifying my fandom just slightly.
It's good.
I'm back in, but you can't hurt me because I know what you're trying to do.
He's growing.
Football gods, I see you, and there's nothing you can do to me.
Good luck.
They are giggling up in the clouds.
All right, we'll be back Thursday with another episode of the podcast, the preview show. But also Thursday night, we'll recap this game and check out Connie Fox, of course, on NFL
Oh
Network,
yeah.
where she'll have this on lockdown. Also, Connie and Ricky Hollywood on the Split Ends podcast. I believe you had Rachel Bennett on today's
We
show.
did.
Who
She was
filled in
awesome.
great, on the power rankings. She's a rising star. We like her, so check that show out. Anything else? Mark, do you have a plug? What's going on with the Underdogs column? Take us through it.
I actually mentioned that Jets spread. I thought that was inane, and I told people, go take your hard-earned money, and you put it on the Jets, baby.
Wow.
In subtext, I
Yes.
didn't actually say that was my.
Oh, good.
I'm not allowed to, but that's what you should be reading. on a different level.
All right, Greg, do you have any other thoughts about the Deshaun Watson situation before we sign off today?
No, that was
no,
it.
Please, come on.
This
end it.
culmination of months of wasting our time.
All right, there we go. That's it. Dan Hand is signing off for the Tiny Box, the old boss. Quiet Storm, Ricky Hollywood behind the glass. Where's Graver? Some tears. Until Thursday, heed that call.